Chapter 161. Sienna smiled as she gestured. Mr. Calcraft, Miss Lewis, please come with me. Nash took Hira's hand and realized her palm was all sweaty. Hira had not recovered from the shock she had just received. The young master of the Watsons had been kicked out. Nash held a platinum membership at the Chateau Hotel. Captain's top star was hosting her birthday celebration. Was she dreaming? The Lewis family members were so embarrassed they wished there was a hole for them to bury themselves in. Hira's family had always been the one they looked down on, but they were the center of everyone's attention today. They hesitated, wondering if they should go forth and say hello to Harrison and Laura. Hira, I've just sent you a follow request on Instagram. Please approve it when you see it. A demure smile immediately appeared on Carmen's face. Charles also grabbed the keys to the Lamborghini sports car he was initially planning to give to Helena and stuffed them into Carmen's hand. Carmen grinned as she walked over. Hira, this is my and Charles' gift to you. Scotty had already seen through Carmen's facade. She stood in front of Hira and pushed the keys away, a cold look on her face as she said, "You should keep this present for yourself. What makes you think Hira is a match for a Lamborghini?" An awkward expression crept over Carmen's face. Hira, Scotty, I admit I was a bit of a snob, but please do not stoop to my level. This is a gift that comes with all of my sincerity. She was not trying to suck up to Hira but to her boyfriend, Nash Calcraft. The fact that he held a platinum membership at the Chateau Hotel was a golden opportunity that could not be missed. Scotty gave Carmen a scornful look before grabbing Hira's arm and walking toward where Sienna was headed. Nash made a gesture to follow them. Carmen did not want to miss out on a chance to get on his good side and hurriedly retrieved a name card from her purse. This is my name card, Mr. Calcraft. My family produces over 60% of the tea consumed by the people in this country. Feel free to contact me if you ever wish to have a good cup of tea. Nash paused and took the name card. Overjoyed, Carmen rearranged the strands of hair laid across her forehead, trying to make herself seem like she had seen everything life had to offer. Nash tossed the card into a nearby trash can and said mockingly, "It's no wonder your family sells tea when you're always this ready to spill the tea on someone else." He strode away from her after finishing his sentence. Carmen's face turned a bright red as embarrassment washed over her. She had been expecting a rejection from Nash, but she had not been expecting something so direct and insulting. If it had been anyone else, she would have already begun yelling at them. However, Nash held a platinum membership at the Chateau Hotel, and she could not afford to offend him. Harrison and Laura made their way over to the other Lewis family members. Laura had a wide smile on her face as she said, "Thank you for attending Hira's birthday party today." These relatives would also be present if they were celebrating Hira's birthday, but Hira had actually postponed her celebration while Helena had decided to shift hers forward. Hence, they were really here to attend Helena's birthday celebration. Kai and Helena's families were no longer able to dine at the Chateau Hotel. Hence, to save them from embarrassment, Laura decided to say these people were here to celebrate her daughter's birthday. Not only could she showcase how generous her family was, but it would also help strengthen the bond between her family and the rest of the Lewis family. Haha, yes. I was just saying that birthday celebrations should be on the actual birthday itself. Hira is the birthday girl today. We're all here to celebrate her birthday. One of Harrison's cousins laughed while he spoke. The other relatives also smiled as they nodded in agreement. Laura smiled demurely and turned toward Hubert and Rooney. "Hubert, Rooney, would you like to join us?" Chapter 162. Laura's attitude and tone were sincere and showed no sign that she was making fun of them. After all, it was her daughter's birthday today, and she too hoped everyone could enjoy themselves as they celebrated her daughter's birthday. Rooney glared at Laura before scoffing. "Stop being so pretentious. It's just dinner. I'm sure Mr. Kai will have something even grander arranged for when it's my daughter's turn." "Mom! Stop it!" Helena was too embarrassed to stay inside any longer. She grabbed her mother's hand and ran out with her. Hubert hurried after them. Herman shook his head. "Let them be. We should go ahead and celebrate Hira's birthday." Sienna led everyone to the ultimate royalty room. Over 30 leather armchairs were arranged around a massive circular table. A massive chandelier was suspended from the ceiling, casting its gentle light into every corner of the room. In the corner was an expensive grand piano. The artwork and paintings decorating the walls were all invaluable pieces of work. The porcelain vases displayed in the room were also antiques. Herman and Kane immediately got distracted by these antiques when they entered the room. Olivia acted as the two-men's tour guide and introduced them to every one of the pieces. Hera returned to her senses and dragged Nash over to a corner. She placed her hands on her hips and puffed her cheeks out as she asked, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Nash replied, "I wanted to surprise you." Surprise? Shock sounds more like it. Do you know how nervous I was just now? Hera glared at Nash. The angry look on her face made her seem even cuter. She had met Sienna Lowe, an A-list celebrity. She had also learned of the existence of the Platinum membership card. These were all things she had not expected to happen even in her wildest dreams, and they had all happened to her today. Nash sighed. I wasn't expecting Theo to give me his Platinum membership card either. So, what's the deal between you and Theo? Hera stared into Nash's eyes, seemingly trying to pry all his secrets from his mind. We're just friends. To be honest, Nash did not know how to define his relationship with Theo either. However, Theo had been doing his best to help him all this while. Just then, a commotion rang out outside the room. An old man who seemed to be in his 70s stood at the entrance, a group of young men and women behind him. Oh my goodness. Is this truly Hera's birthday celebration? Oh, my. Is that Sienna Lowe? Holy crap. What did I do right to get to see Sienna in a maid costume with my two eyes? These people were classmates Hera had been on pretty good terms with back in college. Several of the people in the group were her lecturers. The oldest man was the chancellor of Johnford University. A smile appeared on Hera's face, and she dragged Nash along as she walked toward them. Mr. Yonder, Mr. Jen, Mr. Wilcox, and all my dear friends, good evening. Hera smiled sweetly as she said hello to them. Nash, ever the polite man, also said hello to everyone present. Your boyfriend is so good looking, Hera. Does he want another girlfriend? One of Hera's girlfriends asked jokingly. Chapter 163. Hera giggled. You'll have to ask him. Conversation and laughter flowed freely as everyone got into their seats. Hera's classmates took out the small but thoughtful gifts they had prepared. The presents included musical snow globes, resin kits, silver bracelets, earrings, teddy bears, and the like. They did not cost much, but they were all meaningful gifts. Scotty retrieved a rectangular box made from sandalwood from her bag and placed it in front of Hera. Here you go. This is your birthday gift from me. Hee. Thank you, Skade. Hera and Scotty were so close they were practically sisters. She saw no need for formalities between them. The motion-sensing lights inside the box immediately lit up when she opened the box. Inside the box was a mound of bubble wrap wrapped in gold-colored satin, and in the middle was a pair of finely carved bracelets made from jade. The bracelets were made from a type of white-colored jade, and one of the more well-known types of white jade was Hessian jade. Given Scotty and Hera's friendship, there was no way Scotty would have gifted Hera any ordinary set of bracelets. These bracelets, they look familiar. Mr. Jen's eyes narrowed as he mumbled to himself. Kane's eyes widened, and he asked, Hera, can I take a look at those bracelets? The bracelets seemed familiar to him too, but he could not recall where he had seen them before. Hera handed him the sandalwood box. Kane took the box from her and carefully placed it before him. Then, he reached into his pockets and took out a magnifying glass and a tiny flashlight designated for appraisal purposes. Harrison chuckled. You truly are passionate about jade, Kane. You even have your appraisal tools on you at all times. Kane smiled. I'm getting old and don't have much to do with my time. Got to find a way to spend my time somehow, don't I? Since the shooting incident, Kane no longer dared to harbor any evil intentions. All he wanted was to live the remainder of his life in peace. As for the ill-gotten wealth he had received in the past, he planned to use it all toward the family's betterment after it was confirmed Herman would be the next household head. The old men gathered together to look at the jade. It was obvious they were all extremely interested in jades. These bracelets are the ones that were seen at Centurion Auction Room 3 years ago. Kane gulped. Herman whispered, Which era are these from? Before Kane could answer, Mr. Yonder answered, these bracelets were a gift from the last monarch to his wife. Some say they were stolen from their graves, but some say they were never buried with these bracelets. Mr. Jen said slowly, from what I recall, these bracelets were sold for $86 million. The students all took a sharp intake of breath when they heard that. $86 million. That was an amount they might never be able to have even if they worked for the rest of their lives. Yet, Scotty had given Hira a pair of bracelets worth $86 million. Let us have nice things too, Hira. You've got such a great best friend and a boyfriend who's rich and handsome. Comparison is the death of all happiness. When is it my turn to have such a rich best friend? Scotty, is it too late for us to become besties now? Scotty, I don't have a girlfriend yet, if you don't mind. A beady-eyed man dressed in a suit rubbed his hands together. Scotty grinned. You can always try courting me if you aren't afraid of suffering physical pain. Ha. I was just joking. I have no interest in tomboys like you. You rat! Say that again. Why would I repeat myself just because you've asked me to? That would be so disgraceful. Kane returned the jade bracelets to Hira. Hira then pushed a box towards Scotty and said earnestly, these bracelets are much too expensive, Scotty. I can't accept them. She worried she might lose sleep at night if she wore these bracelets. Scotty frowned. You can put a price on jade, but you can't put a price on friendship. You're my best friend, so you have to take them. Chapter 164. Scotty pestered Hira endlessly, and she had no choice but to accept her gift of a pair of extremely expensive bracelets. Hira's professors back from her time in college also gave her some birthday money. It was not a lot of money, but it was the thought that counted. Kane took an envelope out of his wallet. A little something from me to you, Hira. Hira's hands trembled as she took the envelope, and she sounded choked up when she said, thank you, Uncle Kane. It was her 22nd birthday today. It was also the first time her Uncle Kane had given her a birthday gift. Harrison muttered, that envelope doesn't even look like it's got anything in it. Laura smiled. This gift was supposed to be for Helena, so I'm sure he wouldn't have been too stingy. I have a feeling there's a check inside the envelope. Harrison rubbed his hands together. How much money do you think there will be? Laura shook her head. I have no idea. But there's no way it'll be anything less than 6 figures. Harrison took a deep breath. He had never received such a generous gift, even when it was his birthday. Then Herman said, I had something prepared for you as well, Hira. But this one was initially prepared with Helena in mind. It's not enough to demonstrate my love for you, so I'll make it up to you tomorrow. Hira smiled. It's all right, Grandpa. I'm already overjoyed that you would celebrate my birthday with me. She was celebrating her birthday with her friends, family, and boyfriend today. That already brought her a lot of joy. Birthday presents were just a formality. Scotty fluttered her eyelashes. Nash, where's your gift for Hira? Everyone immediately redirected their gaze toward Nash when they heard that question. All of them wanted to know what sort of birthday present the man who owned a platinum membership card to the Chateau Hotel had prepared for Hira. About that, an awkward expression appeared on Nash's face. Theo had called him that afternoon to let him know the photolithography stepper had been delivered and it was probably being assembled right now. Gosh, it's your first time celebrating Hira's birthday with her. Did you not prepare any gifts? Scotty teased him in a mocking tone. Their other classmates could not keep their grins off their faces. After all, he had made a reservation at the Chateau Hotel's Ultimate Royalty Room and got a list celebrity Sienna Lowe to host them. It was not something that could be accomplished by just paying up. There was no doubt Hira would remember this birthday for the rest of her life. Hira laughed. The roses outside are Nash's gift to me. Blushing slightly, she turned to Nash and asked, isn't that right? Embarrassment washed over Nash when he saw the happy look in Hira's eyes. He had no idea about the roses' existence. The Chateau Hotel had prepared those. When Olivia, who had been directing the waiter where to place the food, heard Hira's question, she smiled and explained. It's a privilege specially reserved for platinum-level members. The 99,999,999 roses here symbolize everlasting love. Oh my God. Hira is so lucky. Boo-hoo. I wish I had a man like him. These roses alone probably cost several $1 billion, right? The girls gave Hira envious looks. Laura and Harrison were overjoyed. You're a visionary, darling. We would never have found such a wonderful son-in-law if you hadn't insisted on supporting Hira. Haven't I always told you that? If you were even half as smart as Herman was, you wouldn't have spent almost your entire life getting bullied by Hubert's family. I must have been blind when I slept with you. Oh, come on. I used to be one of Jauntford's most handsome men. Loads of people were in love with me. I'm not going to waste my time talking to you. Chapter 165. Hira was moved to tears. She held onto Nash's hand tightly, warm and fuzzy feelings washing over her. The table soon became laden with wine and food. The food prepared for this birthday celebration was the same standard as when Theo invited Nash to dinner. Every dish ranged between $18,000 and several $100,000. All the wines served were also from high-end, desired brands. Sienna had invited a famous piano maestro to perform the birthday song. She also poured drinks for everyone present. Hira's classmates were in awe. It was a birthday celebration, but they felt they were bringing honor to their families. After Hira, Scotty, and everyone else had eaten and drunk to their heart's content, they asked to take pictures with Sienna and the piano maestro. Naturally, Sienna was not one to turn down such simple requests. She returned to her room to change outfits and touch up her makeup. Wendy had majored in photography, and she took on the responsibility of taking pictures. The picture-taking session went on for a whole hour. Some of Hira's classmates had begun posting and bragging on social media. They had dinner at the Chateau Hotel's Ultimate Royalty Room, hosted by A-list actress Sienna Lowe, and had the chance to watch a piano maestro perform live. Their posts immediately grabbed everyone's attention. 10 o'clock that night, a world-class fireworks show lit up the sky above the Chateau Hotel. The fireworks could be seen from almost everywhere in Jauntford. Nash and Hira stood in the middle of the heart made from roses arranged on the grassy land opposite the Chateau Hotel. Hira snuggled into Nash's arms. While she gazed at the splendorous sight in the sky, Hira whispered, "Thank you, Nash." Today's birthday celebration allowed her to feel like she was a princess in a fairy tale. Nash leaned forward, touching his chin to Hira's forehead as he whispered, "Did you like it?" Hira nodded. "Yes, of course. No girl could resist something as romantic as this." Nash smiled. "In that case, how are you going to thank me?" Hira blushed. "Well, how do you want me to thank you?" Nash lowered his shoulders, causing Hira to lose her balance and fall into his arms. Hira's eyes widened in panic. What are you doing?" The corner of Nash's lips curled upward, and he leaned forward to press a kiss on Hira's red lips. Hira shuddered as her eyes fluttered shut and forgot to breathe. She could feel her heart rate increasing. Her entire body stiffened, and her mind went blank. It was her first kiss. Nash had kissed her for the first time, and she had not even had any time to prepare herself for it. Nash did not seem like someone who knew much about kissing either. All he did was press his cool lips to Hira's warm ones. He did not do anything else. "Nash, Hira." Scotty walked over without warning. When she saw how intimate the two were, she immediately stopped. Sorry for the disturbance." Hira came to her senses and shoved Nash away, blushing furiously as she turned away. Nash gave Scotty a displeased look. "Is something wrong?" Scotty said, "There's a large truck outside. I think it's a delivery for you." She was curious about what Nash could have bought that it needed to be delivered in such a large truck. Nash stood and took Hira's hand. A smile appeared on his face. "Come on, let's go unwrap the present I bought for you." Chapter 166. A birthday gift? Hira was a little dazed. Nash had already given her plenty of presents today, so what other gifts could there be? Scotty pointed to the large truck parked on the road. "I have no idea what he bought, but it's something that requires a large truck for delivery." Hira quickly turned to Nash and asked, "What did you buy? Why don't we go and take a look?" Nash took Hira's hand and led her toward the side of the road. At this time, the Lewis family members also had puzzled expressions on their faces. They had asked the truck driver, but he remained silent. Nash and Hira arrived at the side of the road. The driver finally turned to Nash and asked, Are you Mr. Nash Calcraft? Nash nodded. I am. The driver handed a delivery note to Nash. Could you please sign here? Nash took a large pen and signed his name. Then, the driver snapped his fingers, and the young man in the passenger seat pressed a switch on the truck. The back of the container slowly opened. Everyone felt as if their breathing had paused. Inside the container was a brand new, state-of-the-art imported photolithography machine. It was securely fixed with wooden frames and foam. Upon seeing this brand new photolithography machine, Lauren's and Harrison's eyes widened in surprise. Their company, Baroque, was a chip manufacturing company. All the photolithography machines in the company were second-hand domestic-made ones. Despite this, each photolithography machine was worth hundreds of thousands. Trembling, Harrison pointed at the logo on the photolithography machine and said, This is the 9th generation photolithography machine from Lithotech. The 9th generation photolithography machine from Lithotech could produce 7 nanometers chips. One machine was worth nearly $150 million, and they were in short supply. Due to the technology blockade from several countries, it was very difficult for Draconia to import 7 nanometers photolithography machines from abroad. At present, there was only one 7 nanometers photolithography machine domestically. Plus, the company that owned it had more chip orders than it could handle. Even Lauren, who was never frantic, was breathing unevenly from being stunned. She knew very well what this photolithography machine meant. With this machine, Baroque's chips could keep up with the current mainstream high-end electronic products. The entire Baroque company would undergo a huge change, and Drake Group would certainly propose to increase its orders with Baroque. Hira stared blankly at the photolithography machine. Receiving another huge shock made her feel that all this was unreal. Across the street at the entrance of the hotel, Sienna and Wendy silently watched the photolithography machine on the truck. Wendy marveled. This Nash guy is really capable. He actually got a 7 nanometers photolithography machine. One should know that out of the 6 families with a fortune of over 150 billion, only one family had a 7 nanometers photolithography machine. The other families, despite their wealth and power, could not even get their hands on one. Sienna stared at Nash with deep eyes and said softly, how could he get the platinum membership card from the skies if he were not capable? Wendy covered her mouth and giggled. Aren't you going to ask him for his phone number? With your appearance, no man would refuse you, right? Sienna shook her head. He's not a man who looks at appearances and status. When Nash asked her for an autograph earlier, she had been incredibly excited. However, she later realized that Nash only asked for her autograph for Hira. Moreover, the way Nash looked at her was very clear and calm, which meant he did not care about her status at all. Chapter 167. Wendy's beautiful eyes shimmered brightly. Such a man is the most charming. On the other hand, Hira was so moved that she did not know what to say. She held Nash tightly and sobbed. Nash, why are you so good to me? Before she knew Nash, she was not valued in her family. It was not until Nash came to the Lewises to fulfill the marriage contract that she gained a place in the family. Helena had despised Nash, so she stood up to marry him. Later, Grandpa lost his memory, and he once again turned his focus on Helena's family. Today, everything changed because of Nash. Relatives would no longer mock her family. Helena's family also would not dare to provoke her and her parents because of Nash. Grandpa and Uncle Cain would focus on supporting Baroque. All of this was brought about by Nash. Even so, this man had absolutely no evil thoughts. Even when she slept beside him, he would not so easily touch her. You're my fiancé. If I'm not good to you, who else should I be good to? Nash hugged Hira, his tone full of affection. I say, you two stop being all lovey-dovey. Hurry up and get this big guy back to the company. Scotty walked over and forcefully separated the two. Only then did Hira remember that they were surrounded by people. She lowered her blushing head and did not dare to look at Scotty. Then, Lauren walked over and said, Hira, you and Nashi go back first. Your dad and I can handle this machine. Hira had some red wine that night. and Lauren hoped the two would take the opportunity to get things going. The relatives of the Lewises and Hira's college classmates came to say goodbye before the crowd gradually dispersed. Scotty and Bianca tactfully did not disturb Nash and Hira. After everyone had left, Nash and Hira walked hand in hand under the soft streetlights. In Watson Estate, Walter was visiting his wife in the intensive care unit. His wife was staring at the ceiling on the hospital bed, her eyes devoid of any sparkle. "Sweetie, I know you're still holding a grudge against me, but this secret is too important. If it gets out, all of the Watsons will suffer a catastrophe. In order to protect this secret, I should have killed you, but we're husband and wife. I couldn't bring myself to do it." Walter looked at his wife with mixed emotions. 3 years ago, he and Howard had drunkenly revealed some secrets. This secret was overheard by his wife, who was supposed to be overseas with their son. In order to make sure his wife would keep this secret forever, he had no choice but to use the Longhorn. Sweetie Joe asked hoarsely, "Then why did you wake me up?" Before Walter could reply, Sweetie continued to ask, "And what exactly does the young family matter have to do with you?" Walter sighed. "I regretted using the Longhorn on you immediately after I did. I should have trusted you not to reveal those secrets. For the past 3 years, I've been looking for someone to remove it, but I couldn't find anyone capable until I met a miracle doctor recently." After a pause, he answered Sweetie's second question. "As for the matter regarding the Youngs, I don't think it has anything to do with me. When Howard asked me for my people, I had no idea they were going after the Youngs. Over 20 years ago, the Watsons and the Lanes were just third-rate families. At that time, the Green Bamboo Association was at its peak, and Howard's position as the ninth head was enough to make top-tier family fearful of them. When Howard asked to borrow his men, how could he refuse?" Sweetie closed her eyes and said, "Unless you lock me in a room forever, I'll expose this truth to everyone." Her sister, Shanty Jow, had married into the Young family. The fire more than 20 years ago was always said to be an accident. However, 3 years ago, she accidentally overheard some shocking news. Walter was somewhat angry and said sullenly, "Are you trying to ruin all of the Watsons? Your sister has been dead for more than 20 years. Are you going to disregard the Watsons for a dead person?" Chapter 168. Sweetie closed her eyes and stopped talking. Walter sighed. "Things have already come to this stage. You should weigh the pros and cons." He got up and started walking out with his hands behind him. As he reached the door, he continued, "Don't expect to pass on that secret through those nurses. If I find out, they won't be the only ones who die." It was also 3 years ago when he found out that the Kleins were behind the tragedy. If this secret got out, the Kleins would simply wipe out the Lanes and the Watsons. The Kleins, being among the top 3 in Capitan's first-class families, would not be affected at all. In Rex District, Nash walked into the bathroom with his pajamas to take a shower. Just as he was about to undress, his phone that was placed on the sink started ringing. It was a call from Theo. Theo would not call him if it was not for an important matter. Upon answering the call, Theo's voice immediately came through. "Nashi, my grandfather found some news. The 10 juggernauts of the Green Bamboo Association were all involved in the massacre of the Young family village. The person leading them was Howard, the Ninth Society leader." Howard Lane. A killing intent flashed in Nash's deep eyes. Outside, Hira had already taken her shower and was sitting on the bed chatting with Scotty. Scotty sent Hira a web link, but there was a red exclamation point after the link. Hira asked curiously, "Is this a shopping link?" Scotty sent an emoji showing a grin. No. This is a learning website." "A learning website? What was it about?" Hira opened the website out of curiosity. The next moment, a lot of indescribable content appeared on her phone. She barely even clicked on it and videos started playing automatically. They even skipped the introductory part. The inappropriate sounds filled the room, and Hira hurriedly exited the page and cleared the history. Hira replied, her face red with embarrassment. "Damn woman, are you asking for a beating? Come on, I was just worried that you wouldn't know how. We're best friends. I have to help you." "Oh, right. I also ordered some beverages for you. Remember to pick them up later. I'm going to practice boxing with Bianca now. Hira leaned against the headboard, her mind full of the explicit images from earlier. She tightly held onto her blanket, extremely nervous. She had heard that the first time would hurt a lot. She did not deal well with pain, and she would cry too. Would it be a turn-off if she cried? No, no, no! What was she thinking? Hira covered her head with the blanket, refusing to let her thoughts run wild. Just then, the doorbell rang. The beverages must have arrived. She had imagined countless times sharing a nice beverage with the men she liked. Scotty was indeed a great friend, always remembering the things she had said. Hira put on her slippers and went to the door to pick up her delivery. When she opened the door and was about to reach for her beverages, the delivery guy suddenly exclaimed, "Miss Lewis, why is it you?" Hira was startled, then looked up at the delivery guy in surprise. "Mr. Wilson, why are you delivering food?" This delivery guy was Hans Wilson, the marketing director of Baroque's branch office. He was the second in command at the branch. Although the company was not doing well, Hans' salary was quite high, around $8,000 a month. With such a high salary, he was still delivering food part-time. Hans sighed. "Why else than to make ends meet? My wife is pregnant with our second child and is resting at home. My father-in-law is seriously ill and in the ICU. My parents are old, and I have to support a big family." Hira said softly, "It really isn't easy, huh? But don't worry. Our company is about to grow soon. When that happens, I'll increase your salary." Hans thanked her repeatedly, then handed over the beverages he was holding. He took out a black bag from his clothes and said with embarrassment, "Also, Miss Lewis, I'm really sorry. I went to several shops and couldn't find that brand, so I bought another brand." "Huh? What brand?" Hira took the black bag, puzzled. Chapter 169. Upon opening the bag, her eyes widened in disbelief. The black plastic bag was full of contraceptive products meant for couples. Moreover, they were purchased on her behalf by the company's director. This was a great embarrassment, a severe one at that. Mr. Wilson, don't worry, Miss Lewis. I won't tell anyone. I have to go now." With a knowing smile, Hans quickly left. At that moment, Nash came out of the bathroom while drying his hair. "Who were you talking to just now?" Upon hearing Nash's voice, Hira quickly hid her hands behind her back, the delivery guy. Seeing Hira's flushed face, Nash laughed and said, "You ordered food delivery this late? Aren't you full from our meal at the hotel?" It was Scotty who ordered the delivery. Hira gritted her teeth, wishing she could strip Scotty and toss her out onto the streets. Nash raised an eyebrow. "Your best friend really takes good care of you." Hira waited for Nash to turn around, and he waited for her to walk ahead. "Why are you hiding your hands behind your back?" Nash asked curiously. Hira responded while shaking her head. "It's nothing." Nash chuckled and headed for the living room. Hira took a deep breath and followed him. What should she do? What if Nash saw those items? Would he think she had some evil intentions? Just as Hira was extremely anxious, Nash turned around swiftly and grabbed the black bag from her hands. "Ah, Nash! You! Give it back to me." Hira reached out to grab the bag. The plastic bag tore in half, spilling everything inside onto the floor. Stunned, Hira closed her eyes tightly as her face became unbearably hot. Nash, too, stood frozen on the spot. After a moment, he swallowed hard. His face was slightly red as he asked, "Hira, were you thinking of—" "No, I wasn't thinking of anything." Hira shook her head vehemently. Nash asked again, "Then why did you buy these things?" With a tearful voice, Hira explained, "I didn't buy them. Scotty did. I didn't know anything." Nash laughed helplessly. "That Scotty, she's too much." After a while, they were both sitting on the bed, each looking at their own phones. However, they were both distracted and lost in their own thoughts. They sat in silence for 40 minutes without uttering a word. Accidentally or intentionally, Hira's soft toes touched Nash's foot, and she quickly retracted. Nash yawned and said, "Are you tired? Should we go to bed?" Hira nodded. Nash put down his phone and turned off the lights. Meanwhile, Hira carefully lay down on the pillow, turning her back toward Nash. About half an hour passed. Hira turned over, propping her head up to look at the sleeping Nash. Seeing his thin lips reminded her of their previous kiss. It seemed like Nash had not kissed before either. Could it also be his first kiss? Hera pursed her lips, the corners of her mouth carrying a hint of a smile. It was a shame that she was interrupted by Scotty before she could fully experience it. Maybe she should try again? Thinking about it, Hera whispered, "Nash, are you asleep?" Nash did not respond. After a few more minutes, seeing Nash's breathing become more even, she mustered up the courage to move her face closer. Chapter 170. The faces of the two were getting closer and closer, and Hera could already feel Nash's warmth as well as faint breathing as she slowly closed her eyes. Her curved eyelashes trembled slightly. Just as she was about to kiss his thin lips, a powerful hand suddenly wrapped around her waist. Hera's muscles stiffened instantly, and she opened her eyes. Seeing Nash's mischievous smile, she instantly came back to her senses. Her hands were supporting the bed, and she was about to flee, but his other hand held her head. Was he not asleep yet? Hera held her breath, her face as red as a ripe apple. Nash smiled faintly. His voice was slightly magnetic when he said, "Were you trying to steal a kiss from me?" Hera quickly shook her head, flustered. "I wasn't." Before she could finish, Nash exerted some force with his right hand and directly pressed Hera's head down. Her mind went blank. She closed her eyes tightly, and every nerve in her body grew tense. Nash was a young man in his prime, and after having some red wine that day, he was greatly stimulated by Hera's scent, which smelled like orchids. Hera quickly succumbed. Her hands that were supporting the mattress no longer had strength, and she simply leaned against Nash, feeling his burning temperature and surging male hormones. The last bit of strength in Hera's body seemed to be drained. After a moment of tenderness, Nash laid Hera on the bed, about to take further action. Hera clutched the hem of her nightgown tightly, and her toes curled up. At this moment, Hera's phone on the bedside table rang. Nash's phone also rang at the same time. Hera opened her eyes and weakly said, Let's first answer the phone." As if he had not heard her, Nash continued to nibble at her tender neck. Hera looked at her phone and saw it was Helena. Helena had never called her before. The last time they talked was when they were both in school. Nash also glanced at Hera's phone from the corner of his eye. Seeing that the caller ID was Helena, he said unhappily, "She could have called earlier or later, but she had to call at this time. I think she's doing it on purpose." After saying this, he sat up and grabbed his phone. His call was from Harrison. Nash frowned slightly, feeling a bad premonition in his heart. They both answered their phones at the same time. Then, they received the same news: something had happened at the Lewis family's estate. "Mr. Harrison, don't get anxious. Speak slowly. Dad and the rest have not been home for long, and 7 villas in the Lewis family's estate exploded simultaneously. We heard the explosion all the way at Baroque headquarters." Harrison was very anxious and spoke incoherently. Nash heard this and quickly turned on the lights in the room. Harrison continued, "I just called my father and uncle, but no one answered. Now Lauren and I are rushing to the Lewis family's estate. You and Hera should hurry over too." "Okay, we'll be right there." Nash started getting dressed in a hurry, his face dark. The Lewis family's estate had nearly 100 bodyguards, but trouble still occurred. The attack this time was clearly not just targeting Kane but the entire Lewises. Could it be that the Kleins had found something? Hera also got the same information from Helena. She sat in a daze at the head of the bed, and her mind went blank. After Nash got dressed, he took a set of clothes for Hera from the closet. "Hurry and get dressed. We're going back to the Lewis household." In the Lewis family's estate, 7 luxury villas were already in ruins, with the tallest villa still roaring with huge flames. Fire engines and ambulances had already arrived at the scene. Jupiter and Angelica were leading dozens of rescue workers on site. "Where's Dad? Have you found the old man?" A dark-faced Harrison asked a few relatives of the Lewises. They merely shook their heads silently. Harrison took off his coat, went to a fire hydrant on the side to wet it, put it over his head, and rushed toward the villa. The fire was so intense that the firefighters who tried to go in to rescue the victims inside were forced to retreat several times. Moreover, the load-bearing walls of the villa had been destroyed. The entire structure could collapse at any time.